Good morning, everybody, and thank you for attending today's webinar. Today's topic is on Office Connector for Sage 300 CRE with presenter James Coyle from Event One Software. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone is in listen-only mode, so if you have questions, please type them into the questions box on the screen, and we will address them at the end of the session. The webinar will be recorded, and we will email out a copy to everyone later today. I will now turn it over to you, James.
Well, thank you so much, Christina. Thank you for everyone, attending. I'm bringing up the Sage desktop as kind of a last step, but I'm going to be starting here from the PowerPoint. And I want to assure everyone that I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the PowerPoint, but we're going to share this PowerPoint. I want to go over it. It's got a lot of useful content in it. Christina, if you wouldn't mind just confirming that you see my my desktop, my presentation here?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, and you can hear me. Okay, well that means everyone else probably can see it here, so we're just going to proceed. So thank you all. Just a quick note about me, so you kind of have an understanding of what I know and what have you. I've been affiliated with this technology in its current name or in its prior form with a company Timberline, and it was Timberline Office and what have you. I've been affiliated with that company for over 35 years. So I started as a programmer, I worked in support, I worked in sales, I was in recruitment and training of resellers, and I was a consultant. So I really saw it all over, from a lot of different perspectives. And actually, I have some common history with all of you because I helped when, at the time, Timberline was setting up their office. I lived in Morristown and helped implement people, all over. Down to that commute into Manhattan and driving downtown. So I have some common history here. This technology was created by a company called Event One Software, and it is sold and supported and marketed by Sage. And I want to make a big deal about this because the trending for ERP systems is to lock down your access to your database so that you have to really use things the way they want you to use it. That's the way things have been going. Whereas Sage allows and supports with this technology really unparalleled access to the information to use it the way you want to use it. And with the other technology, complementary technology that Accordant presents to you. So really excited about this presentation today. And I think that you're going to learn a lot. If you know this technology, I think you're going to learn a lot. If you don't know it, I'm going to make sure that I give you a good fundamental understanding, including when we get to the concepts of writing and importing. So at this stage, there is a significant population of people who have acquired this technology and use it. Over 2,500 Sage customers, and that represents a very significant population of companies of any real significant size who have it, which is unprecedented. Much of the technology is utilized by concurrent use. Just like you have concurrent uses of accounts payable and job costs and so on, there are concurrent uses of this, and there are over 10,000 of these concurrent uses at use anytime out there. And so the actual population of people who use it across the country is significantly greater than that number. And our belief is that the reason is that people prefer to work in Excel, especially when technology can eliminate the objections that people often have to information. So what we're not going to be showing you is a better way to push data into Excel. That's how people traditionally get it in there. They type it in or they save a report in a certain format and try to push it in. That's not what we're going to do here. We're going to change the whole entire paradigm, and you're going to connect Excel to your Sage in a very intimate and powerful way. And this is going to allow you to build a presentation of information that lasts. You can make it published quality. You can collaborate with what you're seeing. So the reason we believe that it's really strongly utilized is for those reasons. Easy to set up, easy to learn, very, very easy to use. But really, this is more. This is a bidirectional solution. And remember, Sage technology. So it's writing into or importing into Sage in a way that conforms with our security. So we're giving you optional ways to work with information, and I'll to give you an overview of all of that. Now, of course, in a presentation like this, I can't get into the weeds and talk about every little piece and part. This is an introduction. We have other presentations recorded that Sage has done on a national level that Accordant can provide to you links to that information as well, and also a lot of content that is on the user base on our website. So we're here to save you time, and we're going to do that primarily because you're choosing to utilize Excel. You may use it just for a certain challenging workbook, certain challenging presentation. But I strongly encourage you to continue to invest in understanding, because as your understanding of this technology increases, your desire to use it will increase as well. You will get a payback on this technology faster than any technology I can think of, as far as how much time it can save or how much information it can put into use for you, strategically useful to make important decisions run your business. Now, there are 3 products in the Office Connector product suite. So Office Connector is not just one product, it's a suite of products. The first and most common one is one called Query. So if I'm sitting in Excel and I want to connect Excel to my Sage data, I'm going to use Query capability. Now, of course, if you're familiar with Excel and Microsoft, Excel inherently has technology called Microsoft Query. So obviously, if so many people have required this, either they're deluded in some way, or there's something significant that they're doing with this technology that they can't otherwise do. And that's it right there. You're going to see a way to connect in a way that you can't really do with any other technology. But let's say you're using information. If you're a construction company, maybe you're collecting information from the field. It could be payroll time. It could be status of the project, cost forecasting perhaps, and you want to get this into your system. So not only can you collect the information, but you can send it back into Sage. And Sage has 2 means for getting data back into it: writing or replacing data in the database, and importing. And I'm going to touch upon both of those. And then it's going to be a learning process. You'll have questions. We'll try to attempt to answer some of those here in this presentation. But Accordant has some of the very best consultants really for any ERP system anywhere in the United States. You have them right there. So avail yourself. Very experienced folks who can help you, and we're all part of one team, unified to help you make the best use of all this technology. So we have the query capability, and you're seeing an arrow which is drawing information into Excel. So it's not pushing, right? Like we do that with an inquiry in Sage. You could just push it into Excel. It's static. It's in there. If you want new data, you have to do that again. This is different. You're in Excel. You're drawing it to you. I don't think it's difficult to have an arrow represent that, but that's what that query is capable of. For writing, I can update information like on jobs or vendors or employees, and then payroll, maybe union tables and setting up employees in custom fields and things like this. That's the writing capability, the replacing of values and ability to create some new table entries like employees, jobs, things like this. Now, of course, you have to have the Sage security to be able to do this. You can't, not just anybody can touch data in Sage. You have security to prevent someone who shouldn't be doing that to see like financial information, for example. But if you do have security, we can optimize so that you're working with just the data you want in a way that you want to work with it efficiently, effectively. That's what we want to do. And when I get to some of this technology, I'm going to show you things actually that we innovated based on interaction with Accordant here years ago, and that will come into the import area. So when you're in Excel, there may be a way that you want to get information from outside in. Maybe you have details that for, say, accounts payable invoice. You already have all the details, the vendor, the invoice, the distributions. You just want to get them and get that data into Sage, but you don't want to type it. It's 2018. It's about to be 2019. We should be able to work more efficiently. Well, the good news is you can, much more efficiently, and we're going to touch upon that. That's importing. So think of that as being details payroll time, job cost estimates, commitments, could be AP invoices or AR invoices or equipment. You're getting data in there. Now, when we've talked about these three products, people will ask, are there Sage products that it doesn't interact with? And it utilizes primarily Sage's ODBC, that stands for Open Database Connectivity driver. So there are some applications that they don't utilize that same driver, and examples are purchasing, inventory, and service management. So right now, Office Connector cannot see those, but when Sage has completed its migration to Microsoft SQL Server, then Office Connector will be able to report off of either of those databases, and in that point, all of Sage products will share a common database, so you'll be able to run reports off of that. If you need to do reports off of that, we can still chat. Just work with your recording consultants, and they can interact with us, and we can help you identify the right technology that will work right now. Now, in addition to query, there's something special that we realized in opportunity, and that is financial information. So clearly we can see the data in Sage on the account table, or the special table that Sage created that has history that goes back 10 years. We can see that with query, and we can present it. We can bring it into Excel. But when you're doing a financial, you're actually trying to work with information differently. You may want to run a financial comparing 1 month now to a month 5 years ago. I mean, how would you do that? That is extraordinarily challenging. Or let's say it is February. You haven't closed your year yet, but you want to run financials for February. Right now, you're probably going through a process to do that. It requires copying and closing the year in a special folder. You do not have to do that with a product called Office Connector Financials. It's an extension of the query. It's a site license that extends the capability of the query technology. So I'll touch upon that as well. But I just wanted to introduce to you the products. Another way to look at them is a table like this. And again, you'll see this PowerPoint. You'll have this. Courtney will follow up and give you this PowerPoint. So you have these three products, and then you have how they're used. So query and write and import have designer licenses. A designer license allows you to run what you're going to see on this launch pad, but you can also create new capability. And you can get one or more concurrent uses of this capability. When it comes to import, it's a site license. You either have the capability or you don't, but the other ones are concurrent use. The much more affordable license is a standard license capability, the ability just to use ones that are on the launch pad that you're going to see here in a little bit, or ones that are created for you, either by someone with a designer in your office or a consultant or so on and so forth. So you would get a collection of different things in order to accomplish the goals you want to accomplish, and we'll help you identify exactly what it is that you want. However, if you do not have this technology yet and you're inspired by what you see, you can acquire all the designers and the financial capability at a very special discount. Your salesperson will explain this to you. It's called the Power Pack. So just remember that, and we'll come back and discuss that sort of thing with you in this ongoing dialogue that will extend beyond just even today. Okay, so when we think about the query design, that's usually how people first start learning about Office Connector. That's actually the first thing that we ever created, and that is the ability to create and involve a report, but to do so in an intuitive way, an evolutionary way, because we noticed how people were creating reports with things like Crystal or Report Designer, and that's not intuitive. You can learn how to use it, but it's not intuitive the way people think. But very many people use Excel. So we built a way to evolve a report that most people can be successful. So I'm going to be showing this to you. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some reports that are already available to you on the Launchpad. And I'm going to show you Office Connector regular query reports, but I'm also going to show you financials. So these are some of the things that the financials allows you to do. So just touch upon this. So let's just take a look at this technology. Okay, so first of all, I want to point out to you, if I'm in Sage on my desktop, if I go to Excel-based reporting, when you see these templates, these are called starter templates. Okay, everybody gets Office Connector. It's a part of Sage. When you install it, it installs Office Connector. And you get these templates, and they are what they are. You can't customize them. A consultant can't customize them, but they're very useful, especially this one that allows you to search the Sage database for information. Very useful in an audit. So these are starter templates, and I'm not going to cover them because they just come with it, and your consultant can cover it. Sage support can cover it. But if you click on this launch pad right here, you're going to get to this Office Connector launch pad, and that's where I'm going to go in a moment. But I want to point out that when you have been building reports or have been built for you in the past in any of these places, you can, with a report manager, put your new reports or customized one on your Sage menu. Well, you can do that with the Office Connector reports as well. You can put them right on this menu. So I just want you to be aware of that. And I'm going to now minimize this. I'm going to come out. Sorry for my very cluttered desktop. I'm going to hide all those icons. In fact, I think I will right now. So then they're not cluttering and showing. Okay, great. Now this is the Office Connector Launchpad. So you'll notice there's a Welcome tab, and you can open it up and look at it. I also will let you know that if you want to utilize the live software for a period of time, Cordant can facilitate that for you. Okay, there's a way to get that. And you would then install Office Connector and be able to use it. And you'll have links to a lot of useful information, including movies on how the starter templates work, and introductory movies on some of the content I'm showing you here today. So even if you don't follow everything that I'm saying, hopefully you're inspired by some of the things I'm showing you today. You can build on your knowledge and acquire what you need. Okay, so this, and we want to make it so that you can do that whenever it is that you want to do that. So you have a lot of content right here. I'll point out that this knowledge base is particularly useful. There's a lot of content there, and I'll show you a little bit of content from there to help you better understand write and import when I cover that. So this reports tab is the first place I want to start. Now this is a list of think of them as reports. They're Excel templates that generate workbooks with your data, and they're going to be listed here. So here's a list of them, and I'm going to show you a few of these. But before I show you a few of these, I want to show you where, if you, after this presentation, wanted to look at any one of these, even if you haven't downloaded a fully functional, evaluation license of CRE, where would I see what is included in these? One place I can go and look. I'm going to show that to you right now. I decided to start that. And this website, Event One Software, this is the company that created Office Connector. And there's a lot of useful tools that they create, and your Cordant salesperson consultants likely know a lot about this, and they can help you, answer questions and get information on here. But if you come to products and you go to Office Connector right here, so it's eventonesoftware.com, that's the link up here, and you're going to products and you're going to Office Connector. If I go over query, notice it says reports included. I click this and it will show me all these those reports. These reports are the same as on the Launchpad. So here's something. Let's say you're in an audit and it's like batch analyzer. Well, I need that. What is that? Well, this explains it. And if you click read more, only a controller would love this, or a forensic accountant. But if you click and read more, you're going to see screenshots, an explanation of it. So I could click here and it'll show you that you can put in a batch and range of dates. It'll show you all the batches and talk about the details. You could see whether the batch is in proof, things like this. But you could actually get into more detail, like every application that batch impacted. So there's a lot of content. You can just come here and look at them. Let's say you said, well, that's great. I wish I had a copy of this workbook with some data that I could just look at, on my computer. Click right here, and that will save a copy of an Excel workbook that just has values. Okay, so it's not going to be connected to your Sage. It's going to have values from the sample database, but you'll get an understanding. And also, just a kind of a look here into something else I'm going to cover, that's a save as values copy. So people say, I've got a workbook of cash flow or whatever it is I have, and I want to share it with someone who doesn't have Office Connector. Can I do that? And the answer is yes. And it makes a save as values copy of your data. So it's just Excel, not Office Connector. It can't be refreshed. And that's what these are right here. So you're going to get an opportunity to see how those work. And I'll point out that when you're here under products and Office Connector and you wanted to learn more about Write, there's the reports that are included, and that's not to include maybe what important consultants created and might share with people. But here are the ones that are off the shelf, included with financials, import. You can just get to them all right here. Even we'll link to start, although we don't go into a lot of depth of that. Okay, so here's this list of them. If I select one of these and I open it, then what's going to happen is I have to have Office Connector installed. And I'll tell you right now that Office Connector utilizes 32-bit Excel. I'm just telling you. And what is installed by default? Microsoft started distributing 64-bit Excel. Now, to the layperson, they're like, oh, well, newest is better. No, not necessarily. They started breaking things when they introduced it, meaning also compatibility with backwards. So really, 64-bit Excel allows you to use very, very large files. Other than that, there's really not a lot that it offers, but it takes away a lot of capability. And Sage's ODBC driver is not compatible with 64-bit Excel, and we use elements in this technology that aren't compatible. But the good news is that everybody who gets Microsoft Office has both. You have 64-bit and 32-bit. So it's actually quite easy to make your Excel 32-bit. So don't let an IT group tell you, oh, it's so hard. It's not. Okay, it's very simple. And then you can avail yourself of that technology. I decided just to cover that right off the bat in case that comes up for you. We'll set the table. This is desirable technology. So in order to unlock it, make it so that you can. All right, so I've generated a few workbooks. I'm just going to open up a couple of these. That top one, the AP vendor query. I wanted to open these so you can see some of the ways that Office Connector can be utilized. Now, this is a vendor query, but it could be a project query, it could be an employee query, customer query. The reason it was created is that a lot of folks in your business need information, but they don't know the way Sage stores information. They don't know the vendor number. So they ask finance, accounting, can I have this report or that report? But if they want different information, they always have to go through this process. They have to wait. I personally don't like waiting very much, but if I had a vendor and I wanted to see what was open and what was paid, I could just come in here, click on this, and it will take me. It's drill down capable. All right, so there's other tabs here, and when you click this, what happens is it's not a pivot table. There would be nothing in this right now, okay? But if I refresh this, it will pull the data out of Sage for this particular vendor, okay? So it's drilling in. And you can, as you build reports, you can drill down and enable them. Now, this is very useful. There are a lot of people who don't do this. They pull all the detail into Excel and they create pivot tables. That's fantastic if that's what you want to do. I would say, as a beginner, that's fine, but there are much more powerful ways to use Excel. So now I've had people who are like, I'm the best guru in the world, and they can create some pretty extraordinary things. Imagine, if you will, this technology has been out for 18 years, and with all those people using it, one would think we've amassed the best practices of some of the best Excel users in the country. I think we know what we're doing, so take some time to understand a different way to use information. It can be very, very, very fast to get your hands on the data. I want to know what makes something up. I just click and I can drill into it. But remember, this comes back to a stakeholder. Let's say they don't know the vendor. They know it's an electrical one for sure, but and it's just got set up maybe or whatever. But the word electric is in the name. So I type electric, and somewhere in the name, I'm going to hit refresh. It'll search in your database and show you everybody that matches that, or something with an address, or something, I know a part of the phone number. So I put that in here, I hit refresh. Now I'm seeing a list of people, and I can drill into this and get into the detail. You're allowing people to work as effectively as possible. That's called empowerment, and boy, does it empower people. But again, it's useful, but it's more useful if you think of this as a concept, like, wow, Excel-based technology can allow me to navigate information. Now, the reason I point this out is I've seen people evolve their use of this technology to the point that there are companies that run their company off of 6 or 8 Excel workbooks, and they are fantastic workbooks. I could not create them, but I don't know Excel the way many of you know Excel. I'm pretty good, but we'll see. You can make your own judgment call. I'll know a lot about things that people have helped me, Now, let's say I wanted to see cash flow information. There's another thing. So this is a template that pulls information on projects out, and and now don't kill the messenger. This is sample data. Yours is going to look better, or you wouldn't be on this call most likely. But anyway, it's pulling out all the cash in and out. Now, how would I know how this template works? All of the templates on the Launchpad will explain to you what products they use, what's required. It's all right here, okay? How to use the report, everything. If we created a template for anyone, this is what we do. We recommend you do the same thing if you create your own, because later on someone may leave and your company needs to know how the report works, what it's dependent on. But what we've done is we've pulled all this data, and it could be coming from a variety of different tables, but we're assembling it here in one useful way. Now, that's an interesting way right there to look at data. But remember, you're using Excel. So we recommend you graph your data. Just insert a graph, and it's very easy to do that in Excel. Do it once. Your graph is now linked to your data. When it refreshes, your graph refreshes. Put visual elements on your reports, and we can teach you these, and your consultants can teach you how to do this. Now, let's say I want to know what makes that up. Now, I have a sub-report. Think of this as, it's like a crystal sub-report. It's not a query. It's much more powerful than, pivot table, but drill down. But I want to know what makes this up. Well, notice that this is March. It's got a range of dates associated with it, and it's a job. So hidden in these columns are parameters that if I double-click this, it will pass the parameters to a query and refresh it. Think about that. Any report you create with Office Connector or any that you see can be drill down enabled. So you can get, including financials, yeah, so that's a little foreshadowing. So there's a lot on here, okay? A lot of useful content, and you should take some time to understand. The first one we ever created was this one right here. We wanted to bring together data and demonstrate to you that you can pull data from anywhere in Sage and assemble it the way you want to in dashboards or what have you. So yeah, it's a simple dashboard, highly useful, by the way. It'll show me anything that's unposted. But now I'm going to start to use Office Connector. So far, I just use Query Standard. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a sheet here, and I'm going to call this sheet Unposted. Why? Because I want to know what makes up that. There was a certain number of unposted job cost transactions. Here under add-ins is where the Office Connector lives. Office Connector's technology is an add-in to Excel. When you install it, it's very powerful. There's lots of add-ins to Excel. This is just enormously powerful. There is query capability. That's this area over here. Formulas and the ability to connect to dynamic information. There's writing and there's importing. That's what these 3 areas are. All right, so I think about what I wanted. I wanted unposted job cost transactions. So that there could be 1, there could be 0, there could be 1,000. So that's a query. And I'm going to connect the upper left-hand corner of my reports right here. I'm going to click this button, and now I'm presented with a list here in a moment of Sage tables. Now, prior to this, if you just were using it, would ask you for your login and your password, your Sage login and password. Rest assured that in Sage, you can lock access down to data from outside. So Crystal or Microsoft Access or whatever, the access to Sage is limited. And you can lock down the ability to write as well. But so you can control who can see financial information from outside. So rest assured, that's, in fact, we even have a special product called Office Connector Administrator, where your Sage login credentials can give you access to one or another Office Connector capability. Okay, so here's a list of all the tables. There's address book, accounts payable, I want job cost transactions. So I typed in JC space T, but I don't want current ones. I want new ones. So I hit next, and now I'm going to see a list of columns, possible columns. Now I can click them with my mouse. I can come down here and just go like so. I can pull whatever I want, you know, usually like the date stamp and operator, things like that is what I want. So I pull the columns I want. I could preview to see with my data how this is going. And if I do that, it's very visual. So you can know as you're building something if you're doing it correctly. And I may be going fast, but I have a lot to show you, so in only a certain amount of time. Now, I'm not going to put any conditions in, but I can condition it by a range of dates or a job or whatever it is that I want. I'm just going to go to next. And now this is the name. Think of this as a report. And we're going to say it's a query, meaning it's a report off of job cost transactions. But we recommend that you name this what it is, like unposted job cost transactions, something like that, so that this, now I didn't come up with this, your peers were doing these things and we observed it. And the reason is that Excel has things called hyperlinks, and you can have a dashboard page that links to all the different data in your system. And that's how you create these amazing workbooks. So this is the start of that. That's a defined name, and I'm just going to hit finish. So now the data is in there. Now, if I save this workbook, when I come in again, this is still here. I've modified it, assuming I have a designer. And when you open a workbook, you can tell it to refresh everything, or you can tell it, I want to refresh when I want to. But I want to now link this to that. See these unposted entries, these 22? That's this. So this is an Office Connector count function. See right here, it says count off the new file. So I can count, I can sum, I can find. There's just a lot I can do. But I want to link it. So I'm going to use Excel. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to hyperlink, and I'm going to link not to a document outside or a web page. There's so many things you can do with this technology. But I'm going to go to a place in the document, and I'm going to go to unposted right here. See how you see it? So I could have unposted accounts payable and job costs and whatever. So I just click this, I hit OK. Now when I click this, Excel, that was just Excel that did this last part. So this is the beginnings of building what you want, right? And I have a variety of different examples out there. This is an account explorer. So you'll put in parameters like I want to see all my accounts. You'll hit refresh. Now you could refresh Excel, the Office Connector under add-ins. There's this lightning bolt that will work. But a lot of times, when you come into Excel, you're not on the add-ins page, and not everybody in your office is going to take Excel or your Office Connector training. So a lot of times we encourage you, put a little button here. It's Excel's developer tools, and then you can tie this button to a macro that can refresh and subtotal and whatever it is you want. So that's what this has been done. And now you can see a list of your accounts. And again, I might want to see what makes up this accounts payable doesn't look right. Why go run another report? I get it. That's probably what a lot of you have been doing. And you can continue to do that. But you know what? Stop doing that. It's not very efficient. Wouldn't it be much better if you just go, I wonder what makes that up? And boom, there's the data, makes it up. You can learn to make this. And you can keep drilling more and more into the detail, all the way to the invoices and checks and so on and so forth. So we have really powerful technology. But let's think about financial information. This is financial information, and I can get all the way to the subledgers. I can go all the way out to accounts payable and job costs and see where things came from. Not a problem. But when I build a financial, it's different than that. Okay, right? Let's just start with a brand new Excel document from nothing. Okay, for a moment. If I came here and I wanted to see, let's say I want to see my accounts and balances, I can go to add-ins. Again, I'm going to go to query, and I'm going to choose a data folder. And right there's certain people in their head, I've just done so many of these presentations, they'll say, wow, can you pull from multiple Sage data folders? Yes, you can do a lot. I'm not going to show you all that stuff here, but if you take all the training and all that, you can combine data from multiple folders and do a lot of stuff. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at the general ledger account table. I typed in GL account. We're showing you that the concept is the master file. You could preview to see if that is the right table. I hit enter, so it didn't try to preview every single piece of information in my database, and you'll see that on your screen. So I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to pick fields, like I got account title, the type of an account. If I keep, now these are in the same order as if I went into set up accounts. Those fields on each of those tabs, that's the same order. So I got current balance and future balance, and I got ending balances, that I can pull. I've got future activity. If it's January or February and I haven't closed my year because I don't have my closing entries, then January and February and future periods, we can get a hold of all of that. But we only have 2 years of information here. There is another table that has up to 10. That's very useful. Keep that in your mind. Now, Sage's default financials cannot utilize that. It was created prior to all this capability existing. This product can access all of that, and it can do so in extraordinary ways. So if I hit finish, I'm going to get a list of my accounts. I just grabbed all of them. And that's query. I can pull it all. But think about it. If I want to see only certain accounts for certain groups of prefixes, or I want to see data from multiple folders, or I want to see the current balance and the balance 12 months ago, and that's June of last year, and my year ends December. Each one of the columns of a financial is actually represented by an enormous number of potential formulas. And that's how people had to do this in Excel in the past. I mean, you may be doing it in Excel now, which is sad because this technology has been out for a while. You should get it. You should use it. It's really simple and it's extremely affordable. So wouldn't it be better, just showing you the Launchpad, if you go to the Financials tab, and remember, you could preview what's in these just on that website. But I've generated a few of these for you so you could see. I could go in here and see financial statement, with drill down capability. So I can consolidate all my prefixes, go for one prefix. I can set up prefix groups here, and then I could say I want to run it for just a certain prefix group. I can run it for a fiscal period, but I can also run it for a calendar year. Now, why would that be important? This may not be true for everyone, but there are companies that have multiple entities, and these entities don't always have the same year end. You might have one that has an October year end and one that has December. Historically, you cannot combine those. It is effortless to do that with this technology. Completely effortless. Now, the math involved is enormous, but this does it all. So if you wanted to run it for calendar month 1 or 2 or 3, January, February, March, you just pick it and then tell it that's your month that you want to run. So there's a lot that you can do. When you refresh your data, then you're going to see a trial balance here, you're going to see a balance sheet, and you're going to see a profit and loss. Now, can you create your own? Yes. Can you have them created for you by consultants? Yes. This is just one that's on the Launchpad. But let's say, again, you want to know what makes up this parts inventory. Right now, that hasn't been pulled. Because if you tried to push there are some Excel-based technologies that push all the detail into Excel, which is one of the biggest criticisms of Excel, because you can get things outdated then, and it's slow. Pivot tables are enormously slow things. Well, I don't want it to be slow, and I know you folks don't want that. I want to just say, I want to know what makes that up. So I double click, and it passes parameters to this tab and refreshes it. Now it pulls the detail, real time, fast. This you can do with this technology, not just financials, but you can do it with all of this. It's inherently part of Office Connector. So this is Office Connector Query and then extended by financials. I strongly recommend those. I want to show you really quick. I have an example, and I think I really just want to do a great job laying a foundation of this technology. So what I'm going to do, I think I have, bear with me, I'm going to show my desktop icons for a second. Yes, you're going to see how cluttered up my desktop is. But I'm going to open up this folder because I've got a number of cool things I want to show you. And in this financial skeleton, I have data that's just typed in here, okay? And this is just typed. There's no connection yet. If I go to add-ins, This is where I can change my folder. I'm going to select, these are your Sage folders. I pick it, hit OK. I would log in if I haven't already logged in. And I have access to whatever it is that I have access to. And now I think, you know, I want to identify a prefix, a year, and a period. Now, in that other report, these were on another sheet. You can assemble your information however you want. You could have a prefix, a year, and a month in every column heading, so that the formulas just, or change it, and the columns will all change. Why can you do that? Because all of our software, that's not just querying data, is based on Excel formulas. If you know what an Excel formula is, you have an edge in learning this technology. So I'm going to go here to this option here that says Office Connector Function Selector. And here are all these functions that are part of Office Connector. And if you want all of this that I'm showing you, again, I said, get those designers, get Query Designer, Write Designer, and Import Designer, and then get Financials. And then maybe add some additional licenses. And you can do all the things I'm showing you. So this function right here, GL amount, this is what is doing the magic here. It has parameters. It's an Excel function that's Sage specific that you can pass one prefix, no prefixes, we'll grab all of them, or you know, define them here. It could be a range of cells on an Excel document. Lots of ways to do it. You can pass a base account or a range. You can give it a year or period, which could be a financial period, like calendar month or fiscal year. And you can tell it the amount type. So if I come down here, these are the types of things I can pull out of Sage for whatever it is that I've told it. I can get the balance, the period activity, that's the activity as of that period point in time, all of these things. I can provide a budget type, and I can then pull the budget if I wanted. Budget's one of those options. I can identify partners, data folders, all of it. So I'm just going to insert this function. Now it's very powerful, but this is how easy it is to use. I'm going to say, okay, prefix. I'm going to click this button, and the prefix is right there. Everything that starts with 100. I have a sectioned GL here. I want base account. Look at your spreadsheet. I am in D9. This is why this product is so successful. Build one formula correctly, and you can just copy it, and it does magic. Okay, so I'm in D9. The base account is in B9. So I'm going to type in $B9. The reason I put that is I'm going to copy this formula to the right, and I want the base account to stick on column B. How do I know that? It's Excel. You already knew that probably. Now, fiscal year, that's right here. Now, I could just say that's an E4. Now, remember, that's a formula. When I copy it down, I don't want that to become E5, E6, so I'm going to put in $E$4. Now, that you can also define the name. So I'm going to click this button and show you. I can just click it this way. See how it says period right here? It doesn't say E6. That's because you can define the name of cells. And we can teach you all of this. It's pretty powerful. And then amount. If I leave it blank, it told me I would get balance. I don't want balance. I want the activity. So I type the word period, activity. And I just happen to type all these things right there so you'd have them. So I hit OK. And it's going to pull a value. Now I'm going to copy it down. You didn't believe me. It worked, right? Look, it works. If I change this to period 4, changes. Pretty cool, huh? It's amazing. All of Office Connector works like this. Now I want to take this. I'm going to copy this over here. But this is I've got a duplicate. It's great, but it's period activity. I don't want that. Put balance in there. Just edit this. How would I know to do it? It's just Excel. I've heard that so many times. When I ask people, they show me extraordinary things they've done. It's like, I go, well, it's just Excel. And then I copy it down. That is how those more sophisticated ones were created. That is how powerful and easy it is to use our technology. But that is just the querying and the financials. Office Connector is more. And you want to know about this more part because, boy, I can transform things. So I'm going to introduce quickly the Write. Now, I could bring up this workbook here, this budget workbook, for example. I can pick my folder. I'm going to pick that folder. And I'd log in. And now read the information page. We took a lot of time to create this. Read it, and a lot will be understandable, okay? But let's say I just I'm just going to pull values that will work because I'm using sample data. It's showing me a list of accounts, right? It did it just with a query. And I'm working with a certain budget type and year. Now, I can pull data out of Sage with the way I've just been showing you, but a lot of people already are doing their budgets in Excel. So I just want to pull the data from those other places here for each of these accounts. There's Excel functions like SUMIF and all sorts of things. There's a year-end presentation I did for Sage last year. Accordant can get a copy of that for you. If you watch it, I show you how I've seen people using this. It's amazing. But once you get the values in here, you know, whatever it is that you want to get in here, once you get this populated, you know, so remember the formulas can assemble this. You just click this button and you click this right there. This will write it back into Sage using Office Connector Write. So if I click it, it's showing me a preview. Okay, I'm going to be writing this right here. And when I hit write, it puts it in there. And I didn't use a use of General Ledger either. Write does not use a use of Sage applications. And it creates an audit trail. So if you have someone who goes, oh, I could do that with Microsoft Access, we could have a little competition to build a few things with Microsoft Access that are usable. And I'm a programmer, by the way. That's what I started out. They might as well just give up right now. Why? They could be a better programmer than me, but I will use a better tool. This is a fantastic tool. And it does things that Microsoft Access doesn't do. It creates an audit trail. Microsoft Access does not. So I would not really make that recommendation. This is a better way. Plus, people like to work in Excel, you know, so more effectively. So not only did it not update Sage immediately, because in Access it would have, but it creates a recap, a report every time you write. So it's very useful. And then when I come back to my Excel document, here, I can refresh and it will show me that that data is now in Sage, okay? Or if I went into Sage, I'd see it. So writing allows me to assemble information the way I want to use it and work efficiently. And there's a lot on here that's useful. You could set up employees with this. You could, you know, of course, you have to have rights to payroll, but really, you can also update multiple tables. There's not a limit. You can assemble this the way you want. Now, I've chosen to show you a different example of just one table because, you know, you can see all of these. I brought up an example of, where is it? This. The reason I did this is I like to inspire people. So this one works with approvals. Well, there's other technology that does that, like paperless and Timberscan or whatever, you know, that can pull data out of Sage and route it. But I mean, heck, Excel can do it. And here it does. I can pull all my invoices. I can set it up so that the person who needs to approve is identified here. They see all their invoices and they can go here and approve it. But let's say you go, well, I don't need that. I'm using other technology. I'd say, well, hang on just a second. What if you wanted to distribute information so that people can look at it? You could protect this so they can only change this one column and they get to select the invoices that get paid. Would that be interesting? And people go, yeah. It is totally easy to change this to do that. Instead of approved, you could write to the distribution code on your invoice, distribution. Now, someone could just say yes. And if yes is in there, when I go to invoice payment selection, I would just do a condition. All distributions that have yes, boom, they would all be selected. But I had somebody, again, this is just Excel, right? Go, well, what we do is we put like 100, 101, 102, 103. And I go, well, why? What are those? And they're check runs. And it's the same thing, exactly. And then when they go into invoices to select them for payment, they pick everything that has a 101, 102, 103, and they can stage their things for payment, all based on something that I might have shown you, and you go, eh. And don't do that. Step back. There's a lot of smart people who, without taking the time to really understand what it is that they have here, they underestimate how powerful this is. Now, a very common way that people will use this technology is cost forecasting. There is a forecast workbook right here. There's two of them, one at the cost coding category. There's another one up here. There's one on the import page. And so remember I talked about importing, but I want to show you the group that creates these things have created some things that are quite nice. These should be on the Launchpad by now. But there's a forecast by cost code and forecast by category, but these are significantly more powerful than anything we've created for Office Connector. Our historical technology that we first got into Excel was actually distributed project cost forecasting. To get information in the hands of operations in Excel, and they could see what was going on, and then they could manage their projects. And lots of people acquired that in the 90s. But this is more powerful, okay? Because it can be based on a cutoff date. But the workflow, it can be described here. I mean, basically, you'd come here, you'd select a job, you'd hit refresh, and you'd have a forecast workbook. You'd save it in a folder. Most people have a forecast folder, and below that, maybe one for each project manager, and they generate these for a job, all their jobs. It takes you a few minutes, and you have all these. Now, there's a lot going on here, and you might look at this and go, wow, this is great. How is this calculated? How is that calculated? Can I make this work the way I want? Yes, 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 yes. I mean, really, you'll learn that there is a population of people out there who use this that say, you know what? If you can think it, you can do it with this product. It's amazing what you can do. But right here, I've got a workbook. Now, let's say I protected it and gave it to someone. Now, I could see all my breakdown, all my cost codes, my extras and cost codes. I can click this and see these columns, you know. This is just Excel. And you can do this any way you want. This is just what we've done. But someone could put in their projections. Now, if I was the head of operations, I'd say, put why the projections are accurate. Because next month, when they hit refresh, they're going to get a new workbook for a worksheet for August. The September one will still be here, though. And you can see what the trend, right? Now you can start managing things, right? So they can put in comments here. But you could say, well, I don't forecast cost to complete. I forecast percent complete. Just click that, boom, it's percent complete. Ta-da! You know, this is what it is, pretty extraordinary. Now, I've done this for a lot of years, okay? And I think every time I think I know everything, I don't know anything, I realize. But what I've realized is that row by row, you know, you might forecast most of it by cost at completion. But let's say some of these are down here, I want to forecast this by percent complete. Or remember, this is a cost code level one. A category level one, you'd see labor, material as sub, you know. So you just have to think about how it is that you want to forecast. But if you get this information, it's useful, okay? But a finance person needs this in Sage. Now, you don't want to give them a report and they go into Sage and type it into miscellaneous worksheets. I could show you that. I'm not going to. Yes, the user interface works, but why type something when you don't have to? That's when you introduce errors, and it takes an enormous amount of time. On the write back, we're going to give you a choice. You could use direct writing, or you could import it. Now, importing, I'm going to talk about here now. Importing is what in each application in Sage on the tools, there's an import option. So there's a program in Sage that imports files if you create a file in the right format. It's been there, but not miscellaneous worksheets. The only way to do that is with this technology. So Accordion can provide you Office Connector import miscellaneous worksheets, and then it will be exactly the same as if you typed it in and hit post. It would get it in there. So I could say, you know, and you want to work with your consultants, okay? Because how you use this technology may be different. You know, what fields you write into are in here, and I don't. There's a lot I could do. In fact, there are Sage presentations I've done just on forecasting, all the way down to some incredible ones about forecasting expenditures over time. But if you click this, it does the transactions for you, so you're done. But I'm going to inspire you. I want to tell you a quick little story. I think you're going to be blown away. So I think most of you most likely know Bob Sandlins. I've known Bob for a lot of years. And Bob, years ago, he emails me and he says, you know, I've had people, I'll bring up what it is while we're talking, because it's now on the Launchpad. Maybe I could rename it Bob Sandlin's template. But he says, you know, I have this prospect and they want to list out their projects and they want to forecast their cost and revenue over time or whatever it is. And they want to get it into Sage. Can you do that? And I said, yep. And he stopped, he replied, I don't think he'd believe me. And the reason is that if that would be very, very difficult without this or impossible. You certainly couldn't write it in there without this technology, but to manually type it would be tedious because the user interface is not set up to work in this way. But he says, well, hold a second here. Let's assume that you know what you're talking about here, James. How he doubts me after all these years, come now. He goes, what they want to do is they want to, as of a certain cutoff point, they want to see actuals. And they could do billings and costs or cash receipts and dollars paid. And they could limit what jobs right here. So here, if I refresh the data, I'm going to see a report. Now, what this is allowing you is to put in job by job your forecasted cost or billings and cost for each month for 2 years. Now, yes, I've shown this at conferences at CFMA, Construction Financial Managers, and people go, oh, I do that manually, and I look at them, oh, geez, it would be horrible. But, that's what people do. I never do something manually that you can wave a magic wand. Technology is amazing. We were talking about that at the very beginning. This is going to assemble a workbook that you can put your data in, and if you have Office Center query and you have Office Center import miscellaneous worksheets, this will work. So you're going to put in your forecast amounts here. Now this is your past 6 months actuals and then summary information. Now, if you want to, and it's as of this cutoff date, if you want to do this differently, do it differently. This is just one way to show you that you could do it. But if I come here, when I click create import file, it's going to create a file and put it into Sage. You can do this with anything you're doing manually. Stop and think about it. Do I really need to do this manually? Isn't there a better way? Yeah, most likely there's a better way, and it's probably enormously easy. We had people who take credit card details, from a credit card company, and they put it into Excel, and you have to put in your expense accounts and jobs, and maybe you use a credit card to pay different vendors, and then they take it and manually enter it into accounts payable. Who would do that? Now, I'm not making fun of anyone. If you're doing that, it's because you don't know. But think about how much time and you have to spend and then run a report and make sure you did it right. We have a template that can solve that. And you can talk to your consultant in regards to acquiring that, but it will pull that file in, allow you to do splits, allocations. It'll validate. It'll show you a list of vendors or expense accounts or whatever. When you get it right, you click a button, boom, it creates the invoices. This is using Office Connector to drive work processes. Builders closing statements. I've seen people who capture time in the field, but they actually capture units in place, job site POs, and they want to click a button and have it go everywhere. Yep. I had a heavy equipment company say, we use payroll and we enter it, but we also enter equipment. But the problem is all that equipment cost all will have this one date associated with it. And when I bill it, I need it by day. Couldn't I have an entry screen where I enter my time and have the payroll go to payroll and the equipment costs go to equipment costs with the date I entered it? Yep, you can do that. It's a magic wand. It is amazing what you can do. So hopefully I've inspired you with some of these ideas. So let's come back to what I've been talking about here. What we've talked about is the Office Connector product suite. So Office Connector is not just one product. It is a suite of products that are extraordinarily powerful. I have shown you using the Query standard license. I've shown you the designer. I've shown you financials. I didn't do the right designer. Actually, I could do that extremely quickly. If you bear with me, just let me do this real quick. This is there's no way I wouldn't, as a consultant, I would just say, if you want me to implement someone, they're getting the right designer. I'll teach them how to use it. Let's say you need to update information and you have a variety of different people doing it, or you just want to work in Excel, get it all right. Well, I had a customer show me this right here. They were a big company and they had lots of people, including temps, maintaining data, and they only had so many uses of accounts payable. And she just wanted to work more efficiently. And she accomplished something that I didn't think was possible. But I'm just going to grab a couple of things. But I can grab any column in accounts payable and only the ones I want. Now imagine if you know accounts payable, when you go in, You're using a use accounts payable and you have to see all the fields. Okay, well, you don't have to. So I can pull anything that I want. Okay, I hit next. And she had a macro that did all this, by the way, set this thing up for people. She was a VP of finance. But anyway, she only wanted the type to equal subs and suppliers. So there's subcontract, one of. The type is one of subcontractor and supplier. Okay, these are would be her vendor types. But on this screen, remember, I've saved everything as reports that can be refreshed. She didn't. When she demonstrated me, she clicked this button. I didn't know why, but you're going to know why in a moment. She hit finish, and then her macro would put, as of 9/10/2018. Now, she protected everything. An Excel field, by default, if you go into format, you go to protection, they're all locked. So if you password protect it, someone can't change. They only use the data the way you want. So what she did is she had a new name. Now, she didn't just use this for name. She used it for a lot of stuff, so I'm oversimplifying. But she had this, and then, her macro did all of this. It copied the format. Excel macros are amazing. She made the background color a certain way. She changed the grid so it looked nice. And of course, she changed the format, but in this case, she unlocked it. That way, someone could only change this data. And she let them go. Now, unbeknownst to them, over here, she had a formula. And that is, she used the right wizard. This is the right designer. It's amazing. So if you click this, here are all the tables that you could write to. Writing means replacing values. Now, can I create new vendors? Yes. Well, how do I know that I can create a new vendor? The key, all these tables have keys, things that uniquely identify the rows. If the key values are replaceable, that means you can create new ones. And we have a book that has all of that in it. It's called Quick Aim, or you can print available fields out of Report Designer with ODBC. There's lots of ways to do that. But anyway, she selects the vendor, and she says, I want to only modify existing ones. Which vendor? Now, remember, you build one formula, and then you just copy it. That's why it's so easy. So the vendor is in column C, row 5. And in this case, I'm only updating the name, but remember, look. Now, I've had people go, oh, I would never let someone write to the database for outside. Without this technology, I think that's pretty smart. If you had that thought about Office Connector, that's like fighting a war today. We only use sticks. That's all we use. So, and then somebody else, I mean, come on, you want to use the right tool. So I picked this, and then it's saying, all right, well, what value here, or that I want to just replace? I could just say, put a certain value in all the fields, but what value I'm going to say, get it from $E5. That's the value I want to put into Sage. Now, when I saw her do this, I was on mute. I was going to interrupt her, because if she did this and there was a formula, she'd wipe out all her names, because she's replacing it with a blank. But I was on mute, thankfully. And she then said, if $E5 is not equal to blank, then write, otherwise nothing new. All right, that's good. Nothing's going to happen unless it should happen. So now let's say somebody comes in here and they call them up, and this is A1 Electric, and they incorporated. Now, really, I'd be having to grab some other stuff, right? I'd like to know when they incorporated on it. But notice, look at that formula changed. Why did it do that? Because she used this capability. Now, if I take this and I click this button, and remember, she would never let somebody just do this. She controls who can actually send the data in. And you don't have to show the toolbar either, but this is not a teaching class, I'm just showing you. So it's showing you everything. Remember, it just looks like the budget one. I hit right, it will have changed the value in the vendor. And I got an audit trail, and it's been there, okay, when I wrote it, no problems. Everybody's happy. Now, notice this is the other part. When she refreshes, or she wouldn't be able to refresh, because that was static. Now, I didn't know exactly why she did it, but whatever, she knew this. But I did notice she had a checkbox here. Now, I'm not going to use a checkbox. I'm going to use this. And so what she said is, one of the things is that when we started doing the maintenance, they had like 26,000 vendors or more. So we get through this process. If I don't know if everybody did everything right, I might have a temp who did certain things. I can't have them in accounts payable, you know, doing it live, because the only way to get a report of what they did was an audit trail. You do not want to turn on an audit trail, okay, for certainly not, I mean, let's not even think about that. If you want to know why, talk to your consultant. So, but I do want to see what the person did. I can see it right here. That's the other thing. But she said, you know, we might get to a point where something was misunderstood. It was executed wrong. And it's a week later. If they had changed 26,000 vendors in some substantial way, or cost codes or whatever, how would they get back to what it was before? You have to restore from backup. That's what I had to tell people in the 90s. I would have loved this thing. Here's what she did. Blew me away. Now remember, when she had done this other thing, I thought she wasn't nearly as smart as I thought. She was actually much smarter than me. She said, if, again, it's just Excel here, if $L5 is not equal to you, then write this, okay? However, if it's equal to you, she wants to write the original value back. She created selective undo, like that. And I was sitting there going, holy cow. And I came off, I go, how did you know to do that? And she goes, well, it's just Excel, you know? So anyway, kind of funny. But now when she writes this, it can write it back. See? It's going to write it back and put it back in there. So that's right. It's really, really powerful. And I've probably blown away the when I'm supposed to be done here. So I'm going to come back here and just kind of wrap things up. I'm passionate about this. It's amazing technology. Oops, I don't want to do that. I want to come from this slide and just cover the last information here for you. And then, so we talked about CRE, we talked about financials. These are the products that we've been dealing with. Office Connector financials, these are the many things that it does over what you have. So Sage's financials, as compared to other ERPs, it's powerful, but there are things that other ERPs may have that are more powerful. But there is no financial reporting available for ERPs as powerful as Office Connector financials. You have the most powerful financial reporting tool. Get it, use it, and create just amazing things. So I highly recommend it. It's extremely affordable too. It's a site license. It's like under $1,000 to get that. So I would highly recommend you doing it. There's custom reporting that can be done. Now we want to work together. Accordant and Sage's Professional Services for Office Connector are a team. So we have ways of working, you know, and you know, if you have a consultant who knows Office Connector, work with them. They already know your system, they know you, but they can draw upon other folks, a team. And often there's a scope process. If Sage's Professional Services does it, it's billable, the scope process. If it's a significant report, if it's understandable, then it might just be a short meeting. You'll have an idea of what the price is. We engage it. You get a template. You're happy. There's one-on-one consulting. You can email services@accordantco.com and learn more about that. Okay. There is training offered curriculum-based nationally. So Event One Software is a company who originally created Office Connector. Sage Office Connector. It's not Event One Office Connector. It's Sage. This is Sage technology. And so they have people who do the training, okay, nationally, curriculum based. That's not to say that one-on-one training or training done by a Accordant consultant wouldn't just be better. So you want to talk to your Accordant, you know, consulting to identify the best route for you. But there is a training cadence of classes on all of these, so you can do it. There's also an enormous amount of information on the website. I just want to come back to this website here. The Office Connector website, or the Sage or Event One website here, when you come to it, you're going to see this home. And earlier I went to products and Office Connector. Well, Accordant's going to be doing other presentations on other products here, like Liberty Reports for Sage estimating and what have you. But if you go down here to like this knowledge base, check that thing out. You click on this and you've got a lot of content here. So here, you know that where I talked to you about writing and importing, there's an article right here that will show you what writing does and importing. And there's even a tool that will tell you, based on where you want to get data into Sage, which technology to use. You just go down here, pick the table you want to put data into, and like accounts receivable, I want to create accounts receivable invoices. Come down in here. Now, an invoice is a status, and you know that you may or may not know that, but if you click this, it will tell you, you know, you can't write them, but you can import them. So it tells you. There's a lot of content available, as well as anytime learning. There's a YouTube channel for Event One. I recommend everyone subscribe to it. There's lots of content on, in fact, all the consultant training for financials is all recorded in individual bite-sized pieces out there. Just a lot of content out there. So there's the contact information you use. That's Cheryl's contact information. There's her email. That's her phone number. Here's Accordant's website. Accordant is we didn't talk about Accordant and how fantastic, but comprehensively high service company. And I would think that that's what Accordant would say. They're a service company that provides products and but transformative technology, not just on Sage 300 construction real estate, but on how you use information. So I strongly recommend emailing them or just services@accordantco.com. We want you to acquire this technology. There are some awesome deals that your Sage, your Accordant salesperson could offer you for acquiring all of the designers. You know, so but even if you have query and you now want to get the other designers and financials, there's a special package and Accordant to take care of you. So I just want to turn this back over to you, Kristen. Thank you so much. And if I blew over the time when I was supposed to be done,